Hey everyone, welcome to this week's GoDaddy Pro Meetup. My name is Marcus Burnett, and today I am joined by the Director of Business Development for WebDevStudios, which is one of the leading WordPress design and development agencies. Coming to us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, welcome Jodie Fiorenza. How are you today, Jodie?
I'm great, Marcus. How are you?
Good. Did I get your last name right?
You did it perfect. Yeah, that's
Yes.
exactly right.
Awesome. I'm going to step out of the way here in a moment and let Jody share with us how to wrap up 2021 on a high note and start 2022 strong. But first, I want to mention a couple of things. First, this is being recorded. So if you have to drop off for any reason or you want to watch it all again later on, we'll have this posted back to the events.godaddy.com website within the next day or so after this airs. Also, if you have any questions for Jody, I will be hanging out in the chat. So please do throw your questions in the chat there, and I will kind of keep track of those. And if we have some time at the end, I will see if I can get Jody to answer some of those for you. So with that, I'm going to step back and let Jody get started. The virtual floor is all yours, Jody.
Thank you, Marcus. I was just saying to Marcus before I jumped on that typically I have this whole slide deck ready to kind of present, but I really felt like I just wanted this to be more of a casual conversation. I think so many of us, we're going to talk about Zoom fatigue in a bit, but so many of us have experienced this, I think, over the course of the last year or so. We're on all of these phone calls and really trying to engage. And sometimes it's just good to be a little bit more casual and relaxed. And I really wanted to kind of encourage that atmosphere for this conversation today, because it is about wrapping up the end of the year on a successful note. And sometimes we do need to take a step back and just take a little bit of a breather. Before I jump into everything, though, I'd love to introduce myself a little bit, just give you some background on who I am and what I do. So, as Marcus said, I work for WebDevStudios, which is one of the leading WordPress development agencies. We've been around now for almost 14 years, specifically focusing in web design and web development. My role in business development is really to work with new clients and see if we're a good fit for them and set them up on a project and kind of get them on their way. It is absolutely sales, but I think that there's so much more to it than that. There's somebody who I work with, a business development administrator, Tara Rickaby, who I have the pleasure of working with every day. And together we tackle all of the inbound leads, work on figuring out how to handle outbound leads, and do a lot of account management for our current client base as well. Um, I love what I do, and I've been doing it for 10 years. So I've been with Web Dev Studios now for 5, but prior to that, I was with another WordPress agency for 5 years where I focused on the same thing. At that agency, I was director of sales and marketing. Now it's more of just a sales role in the business development world. But it's funny because I started thinking in college I was going to be Barbara Walters. That was really my goal. My goal was to travel around the world, to talk to people, interviewing them, and potentially getting on TV or being a journalist. And I remember in my freshman year of college, the professor coming in and saying, "Hey, have you all heard about this thing called the World Wide Web?" And we really hadn't. I mean, we knew that email kind of existed, that the military was using it. We knew all of that, but the World Wide Web as a thing was not really part of our reality. And it's funny to think that here I am working in that industry now, still talking to people, interviewing people, but just in a very different way. And I love every single second of it. And I think one of the most fascinating things to me about business development and sales is in general is taking the time to learn and understand people, because that is my job at the end of the day. My job is to talk to people, understand kind of their needs and their wants and where they're looking to go, and kind of put that puzzle together for them in a way that makes sense, making sure that Web Dev Studio fits into that equation for them. But I will say that in all of my years of doing this, in all of my experience in the corporate world, the last 2 years have been unlike anything I have ever seen or known before. And I think that that's true for a lot of us, because obviously we had this global pandemic happening, and that really changed the way that we did business, the way that we worked with people, the way that people worked. And I can't underplay the significance that that had in what I do as a profession for the last 2 years. I had to rethink so many things like everyone else did. I remember in 2020 when the world started to shut down for a moment. There was this feeling of fear, but there was also this feeling of like, okay, we can do this. We can kind of join together. We can get through this moment. We're all going to come out on the other side and it's going to be great and it's inspiring and all of that. And I remember all these like fake memes going around. I remember seeing those things about the dolphins and the Venice canals and stuff. I mean, it wasn't true, but it was like people were trying to rally and feel better about what was happening. And I remember at the time talking to my clients and saying things like, it's going to be okay. Let's just take a break. We'll talk it again in a few months. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your colleagues. Let's reconnect because everybody was just feeling unsure. No one knew exactly what to do. And then over the summer of 2020, there was a little bit of a switch. There was a bit of a change where things started to seem like they were going to turn around. Life was getting back to normal. Of course, I'm using air quotes. And then people started to want to do things again. But then it all kind of took a turn again towards the end of 2020, where there was more of people were feeling a little bit hesitant because we didn't know what was going to happen. And then we get into 2021, and I noticed such a drastic change in the sales cycle. Sales all of a sudden took a lot longer. My sales cycles grew by months. I found that people wanted to do a lot more research, have much more involved conversations. And by the way, I welcomed all of this because the projects that we're doing at WebDevStudios, they are not small. So working with a client who wants to take the time to talk more about it, engage more about it, was really exciting to me. But I can't underestimate the shift that happened in the sales process. And I tried to look at numbers. I tried to look at data of what happened in 2020 and 2021. But it's like, then what do you compare it to? Because we haven't had this situation before. So trying to compare that to a previous year, that really didn't make any sense because this is kind of new. But I found that our 2020 numbers, when it was all said and done, were higher than 2019, which, by the way, I was very surprised at. But then I started to look at 2021 and I started to understand why. People were still doing business, but things were slowing down. So as an agency, we became a lagging indicator of what was actually happening in the economy itself. So people were spending money. Again, it was just taking a lot longer. So in 2021, we noticed that there was an increase again in sales, but it was not as significant as the increase in 2020. And now I'm seeing that my sales cycles are growing even a little bit longer. All as businesses, we all needed to shift a little bit and figure out what this means. But it's hard to compare it to previous years. And then we started to have these conversations about, well, supply chain issues. Well, what does that mean? I didn't really know how it would affect me until I started talking to my CPG clients when they were saying, we need to pay attention to what's happening with supply chain issues in order for us to do business. And they put their work on hold until 2022. I will also say that in 2020 and in 2021, we saw a huge uptick in people wanting to learn about LMS solutions or online learning solutions. And I think that's because people needed to make the shift to working from home or doing most of their work virtually. And that was one way either to train folks in-house or to help users and customers grow within the product itself. So that was also another big change that we immediately noticed. I think that people now are planning and taking longer to do that. But this, again, it was all unprecedented. And I don't think any of us could really prepare. So now to what we do. We're nowhere near the end of the pandemic. We know that, right? We have way more time to go. But we can think, I think, a little bit differently going into 2022. We can use the knowledge we have from the last 2 years to prepare a little bit for the upcoming years. So the first question that I always talk to people about when they're thinking about their sales process and what that looks like, I always say, what metrics are important to you? What measurable goals can you set for yourself in your sales and or business development department that would tell the story that you need to hear? I think it's a little bit different for everybody depending on what your business is or how many people are within your business. But I'm going to speak from my perspective. WebDev is about a team of about 50 people. We have very large enterprise clients. One of the metrics that's really important to me is obviously how many inbound leads we're getting and how many of those inbound leads I can convert to one, a proposal, and then two, an actual sale. And then if I'm losing that particular lead in any respect, why? What's the reasoning behind it? So there's some of the metrics that I want to look at. But I think that everybody kind of needs to define those metrics from themselves. Again, what measurable goals do I need to put in place to tell the story that I need to hear? And then you start looking at them and compare them for year to year, but then start understanding, okay, which areas here actually need improvement? What is a good conversion rate? I love asking that question when I talk to other folks in business development. Like, what is the number that you want to hear in your conversion rate to feel successful? From what I understand, most people are going to say between 30 and 40% feels good, right? Again, you need to understand what is normal for you. If every year you're averaging a 30% conversion and then the next year it's 40%, you increased, that's great. So you have to get the baseline for your metrics before you can start comparing. But now I would encourage you to look at your numbers from 2020 and 2021 to start thinking about what you need improvement for in 2022. So that's like the number one end of your task. I look at all of the data, and right now I'm only focusing in on data from 2020 and 2021. Just to reiterate that a little bit, I want to understand how many inbound leads I'm getting, how many of those inbound leads I'm converting into proposals. Out of those proposals, how many I'm winning. And if I am losing that proposal, what is the reason behind it? Is it cost? Is it a competitor? I'm a little bit old school in my sales thinking where if somebody tells me it is price, I don't believe that it's price. I believe that that is kind of like an underlying way of saying that I didn't prove enough value. So I want to know that for myself. I want to know that so I can do better in the next year. So from a sales numbers perspective, that's the number one thing I'm going to be doing at the end of the year. I want to look at all of my data. The second thing I want to do is I want to check all of my current processes that I have in place. So we use a CRM. We use HubSpot as our CRM. Is the workflow that I have set up in my CRM working for us? Is it the way we're getting leads off of the website going into the CRM? Is that a good system? Do we have internal processes in place that allow me to make sure that I'm following up with everyone? So, for example, I also believe that it is a yes until you are told no. And that is also an old school kind of sales mentality to have. But when I tell you that folks who aren't ready might be ready 2 or 3 years later, I have very much found that to be true. But if they ask me to stop contacting them, emailing them, I will absolutely do it without question. But I do have a process in place for follow ups. So if a lead comes in, I get that into our CRM and I have a 6 email process in place. The first email goes out right away. If we don't hear from them, we email again within that week. The next email goes out within 2 to 3 weeks. The next email goes out within 2 months, and so on and so on. So it's a set cadence that I have of follow up emails from 1 through 6. The one thing I will say about 1 through 6 is that I contact folks like it's the first time every time I contact them. Meaning, I hate when I get an email like, hey, Jodie, we've tried to reach you for the last 3 months and you've never responded. Don't guilt me. I'm busy. I'm sorry. I don't catch every email. And I want to pass that on to my clients as much as because I know how I react to something like that. I'm not going to guilt somebody. Every email I send you is like the first time I've ever reached out to you, basically saying, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation with you. If you're interested, get in touch with me. I understand that people are busy. I understand that people are burnt out. They are overworked. And I don't want to contribute to that. I want to be unique. I don't know if any of you are Office fans, but Michael in the office, he has that Rolodex, remember? And he writes on the cards like all these crazy facts about his clients. I love that so much. So if a client says to me, hey, I'm a Packers fan or whatever, I'm going to put that in my CRM. So when I reach out to them, my fifth communication may not be, hey, let's talk. It might be, oh my God, congratulations. The Packers won last night. I just wanted to let you know that I saw the game. It was awesome. Have a great week. They don't always have to be sales focused. The idea is you just want to keep them engaged. So be conscious, but definitely set up a cadence. Reevaluate your processes. If you don't have one in place for that, now's the time to do it for 2022. So let's talk about clients a little bit more. I was just saying that I try to be respectful in anything I do when I'm working with my clients or talking to my clients. This time of year, especially end of year, I want to be very respectful of everybody's holiday schedules. So if somebody tells me that they're taking the last week of the year off between Christmas and New Year's, I absolutely will not reach out to them. I will not contact them. I do this because I don't want anyone to do it for me. I want to be able to take those days off and kind of enjoy them. So I always ask folks, hey, what's your holiday schedule looking like for this month? I want them to tell me. And then those dates, I like X them out. I will not contact them. I will not attempt to schedule a meeting. I will make sure that they're not on email blasts. I will do whatever I can. I want folks to understand that I hear them. There are those days off. I'm respecting them and I'm going to be very conscious of that. And I think that that's very important this time of year. Another thing that I want to do is I want to check in with all of my major clients at the end of the year. And there's a couple things I want to do with them. First, I want to do a recap of the year. What went well? What processes can we improve upon? Did we meet all the objectives that you personally had outlined for the entire year? I want to learn all about that. I want to ask them their goals for 2022. I also want to see if they have any budget that they need to spend before the end of the years. This is a conversation where we're doing a retro with every client, and it is essential to close out the year. Now, I say every client, but I want to be clear. You have to put some parameters around this for yourself because every client would be a lot. But you want to identify your major clients and do these retros. What went well? What do we need to improve upon? What are your goals for the next year? Did you reach your goals for this year? Do we have anything we need to finish before the end of the year? And the most important thing is to tell your client thank you and that you appreciate them and that you appreciate working with them throughout the year. I don't think that that gets said enough. I look at our clients and we work so closely together. And I think it's really important to just to remind them that you appreciate all their hard work and the effort that they're giving to the project as much as you are. I also think that this is a great time at the end of the year to look at your current clients and start making decisions. Not every client is worth the energy. Let's say you do have a lead that you've been following up with for 3 years and there's never been a response. It is okay to say, all right, I'm done with this. I'm going to shift that energy to something else. Sometimes you need to part ways with clients that are sucking the energy from you so you can do better for your other clients. And it is okay to do that. And this is a great time of the year to start making some of those decisions. It's okay to say no, basically. All right, so that's about clients. We talked about some end of the year sales tasks, but let's talk about the things that you should be doing at the end of the year for yourself, because I think that they're just as important. Long time ago, one of my colleagues said to me, throughout the year, you should make a list of everything that you feel very proud of and everything that you accomplished that maybe wouldn't be notable, but that you think that you should just record for yourself. And I thought that that was such an interesting thing to do. So I just have a little note document. And anytime I give a big pitch or I meet an interesting client or something like that, I just make a quick note of it on this document by month. At the end of the year, then you can look back at this list, just kind of be appreciative of everything that you've done and feel proud of the work that you put in for the year. But also find one thing on that list that you are extra proud of and just like really throw a party for yourself for a moment and just be really proud of what you've accomplished personally. And do it in private, do it in public. I don't care how you do it. But I think sometimes we don't take enough time to just congratulate ourselves on a job well done. Make a list and appreciate it at the end of the year, because I guarantee you are going to surprise yourself about everything that you've accomplished throughout the year. And then this is a great opportunity to start setting goals for yourself for the new year. So, okay, hey, I came up with this great list. I had this great list of things that I did next year. I'm going to raise that bar for the next year. This is what I'm going to set for myself. These are the goals that I'm going to accomplish for 2022. Do some goal setting, really think it through. The thing I encourage people to do when they're setting goals for themselves is to do realistic goals. So you don't want to set goals for yourself where you're saying, I'm going to have 100% client satisfaction in 2022. It's just unreachable. It's almost laughable. So when you are setting goals, yes, make them challenging, but make them reachable for yourself. And then you can kind of compare the list that you made of all your accomplishments through the end of the year with the goals that you set and see how far you came. And it's really exciting. I would also suggest taking a day to clean house, meaning get to inbox zero, which, by the way, I brag about this because I will be very proud of myself. Like, this was one of the goals that I wanted to come out with for this year. And so this is something that I've been tracking myself doing. Every Friday, my goal before I leave the office is to be at inbox zero. So I don't do that because I'm so organized and amazing. I assure you, I do that because I know my limitations, and I will get very overwhelmed if I see a very cluttered inbox. So in order to keep myself just sane, I need to do inbox zero on Friday. So here's how I do it. And this is just kind of my own little system. There's that great rule that I'm sure you've all heard before. If it's something that you can do in 2 minutes, do it now. I live and die by that. So an email comes in, and either I'm going to respond to that email right away, even if it's a response to say, hey, I just want to let you know that I received this. I'm working on it. Stay tuned. I either make a task to do whatever it is that I need to do in that email and get it on my calendar and file the email, or just file the email if I need to, or perhaps I need to forward it to somebody else, or whatever the case may be. But my goal is to get it out of the inbox. Friday, I go to inbox zero. But the end of the year, if that's not your normal workflow, that's cool too. The end of the year is a good time to start looking at that. Getting to inbox zero, also cleaning up your pipeline. So when you start for 2022, you can look at your prospects and just know that they're all people that are fresh opportunities that you're going to reach out to. Also giving your CRM, whatever you use, if you use a spreadsheet, if you use HubSpot, whatever it is, just giving it a good house cleaning. So when you come into the new year, your objectives are all straight in those systems. The other thing I would encourage you to do is check in with your team and whoever you work with directly, and have a one-on-one conversation with them. 15, 30 minutes, send them a virtual cup of coffee, whatever you need to do, and just see how they're doing. I have no data to back this up. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm prefacing all of this, but I don't think that we have actually seen all the ramifications of what this quarantine and pandemic has done to folks yet. I think there's going to be some long-term effects of this. I know that people are feeling brain fog and fatigue, and I think it's important to check in with one another and just make sure that everyone is okay. See what they need. Just, say to them, hey, is there anything I can do for you? How was your year? What do you feel proud about? What do you need next year to be successful? Have that conversation with them. And just as I suggested, showing appreciation to your clients, tell your colleagues thank you too. Just say thank you. Thank you for supporting me this year. Thank you for getting through this year with me. Because I think we all need to be reminded of that and hear that more from one another as well. We're working together. So, share that support. Now, for the new year, a couple things that I would also encourage you to do is make a dream client list. I did this with everybody at WebDev. I started a spreadsheet. I sent it to everybody in the company. I said, I want you to think of that one client that you would want to work with more than anything else at WebDev. Who is it? I don't care who it is. And fill out the spreadsheet. And we created this entire team dream client list with places like Target, Star Wars, Disney. And they were like unreachable goals at first when I looked at them. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it my goal in 2022. We are landing one of these clients on this dream list. That was it. That's my goal for 2022. I started reaching out to everybody and having conversations with them about, how do I get in touch with these folks? How do I get in touch with this lead? Believe it or not, I made a lot of progress, and I cannot wait to tell my team in 2022 that we landed one of these clients on their dream list. So make your own dream list for 2022 because it's really fun. I think we all need to start being creative and thinking of ways to engage with clients in the new year as well. I think we're all kind of tired of video calls. It's a lot, they get exhausting. So, one of my main goals for 2022 is to think how to combat Zoom fatigue. I don't necessarily know what that looks like yet, but I have been doing some research and reading some books on ways to engage clients to make them feel a little bit more included and a little bit more excited about the calls that we're having. I also will say that one of my goals for the new year is to practice single tasking, meaning multitasking doesn't work. It's been proven time and time again. So checking Slack when you're on a client call or answering an email when you're talking to colleagues, like that is one of my goals to stop that in the new year. My goal for the new year is to be a single tasking person, and I'm going to continuously work on that. And that leads me to also being intentional. One of the things that I got out of the last 2 years is that people appreciate intentionality very much. When I'm talking with a client, I want them to know that I am there for them. When I am working on a contract, I want to dot every I, cross every T, and take my time. Intentionality is going to be a very big theme for me in the new year. The other thing I think that everyone should do is find new ways to learn. So either you're making a list of books that you want to read, or you make a list of topics of things that you want to research, or find a number of online classes that you might be interested in taking in the new year. Make your list so that going in the new year, you have something to look forward to, something to expand your mind, something to grow with. And I think that that's also really important to do. So really that all goes back to intentionality. We're setting goals and perspectives for the new year of things that we want to do for ourselves. And that is obviously just going to roll into our colleagues and our clients and successful business in general. And I don't think I mentioned this one. And if I did, forgive me, but I just want to circle back for a second. It's also incredibly important to check in with your partners, meaning GoDaddy being a web partner for an agency, or any other, SEO companies or people that are crafting content, like checking in with all of your partners and coming up with a goal list for the new year, how you want to work with them to either get new clients or to improve your skill set together. Also very important. So just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. So to wrap up a little bit of this, we're almost like right at 3:30, so it's perfect timing. I want to just say that define your metrics, look at your numbers, reevaluate relationships with clients, check in with all of your major clients and make sure that they're doing well. Check in with your partners that you're working with to set goals for the new year. Check in with your colleagues to make sure that everybody's feeling okay about everything. Clean up all of your systems, review your processes, say thank you to everyone, and then be intentional with your goal setting and your objectives for yourself for the new year. So I am ready to answer questions because that was a lot of information we went through, and I see some stuff happening in the chat.
Yeah. Wow. You wrote an outline, and I am over here furiously typing all of these, and I'm not sure whether your outline is longer or my notes are longer.
It's a lot to talk about because it's like you're cleaning house for the year and going into the new year. You want to go with just kind of a fresh palette. And again, these 2 years are unprecedented. So what we've typically done in the past, it's different now, and that's okay. We all kind of got to adjust.
Yeah, I really like that. That's one of the things that you pointed out, that when you're looking at your data, you're having to do it based on like 2020 and 2021, because everything before that is not the way the world is now.
Nope.
So some things have to be different. We do have some questions. There's actually been a lot of chatter in the chat, which is awesome, fantastic. For those of you that are hanging out there, if you have more questions, please continue to add them there as I ask these to Jodie. Let's see. Kathy asked, "Are dream clients the same or different than fantasy clients? And how do you maybe separate those two?"
I don't know what fantasy clients are. I don't know if that's
Or,
something that I
or
should
maybe
know.
they're not, or maybe they're not different. I
Maybe
think
they're not
just
different.
maybe I think what Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong here. I think what Kathy might be asking is, like, is there a level of
Oh,
realism that matters in determining your list of dream clients?
okay, that's a great question. I can't wait to answer that. Here's the way that I look at it. We all work in, well, I can't say we all work in WordPress. I work in WordPress. That is the CMS that we use here at WebDevStudios. I absolutely 100% believe without question that there is a place for WordPress in every company, in every organization that exists. It may not be the main one that they're using, but it is certainly a complementary CMS that they could be using to spin up marketing sites, to do event sites, to just do a blog. And because I believe that in the core of my being, nothing is unrealistic, in my opinion, because everyone has a place for it. So that belief that I have that any enterprise client could use it is, to me, there isn't anybody that's unrealistic. And at WebDev, I can't take credit for this. I mean, I do business development, but we have such a brilliant team of engineers. When I say brilliant, I mean, I am amazed every day at the work that they do. But our clients are Microsoft, NBA, Viacom, like we have major names. So because we were able to accomplish that, I'm like, Disney, I'll figure out how to get into Disney. You want Star Wars blog? I will go down to Florida myself and figure it out. That's kind of been my attitude lately. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but unrealistic doesn't exist anymore in my world because I've seen what our team can do.
Yeah, I guess the adage is true too, that it's a no if you don't ask. So, I mean, you're not going to get those clients if you don't try to go after them, right?
Well, that's exactly it. No's do not scare me. And that is after 10 years of business. I think I finally have gotten to that place. I was not like that for a very long time. It took me a while to get there, but now I'm there. I'm not scared of a no. It doesn't really affect me.
Nice. Sort of as a follow-up, Lisa also asked, "Is your dream client list based on previous inbound leads, or is it mostly for cold outreach?"
All cold outreach, which I'm going to be honest is not my area of expertise. And quite frankly, I don't like it. I'm not going to ever wake up in the morning and be like, oh, yay, I have to do outbound work. It's just not really the most fun thing for me to do. But it feels so good to be able to deliver something exciting and positive to the team that I'm kind of taking a risk on this and doing outbound. I'm not doing it by myself though. I reached out to a lot of contacts and folks that I've networked with, and I'm trying to get there indirectly. But this is new for me. Outbound is not my favorite thing to do.
That's fair. Let's see here. Going back to some of the email follow-up stuff that you said, you said you have a 6 email follow-up process and
Mm-hmm.
that some of them are not salesy. Do
Mm-hmm.
you find that for those not salesy ones, that some of those prospects take action on those, or do you think that those are mostly like warm-ups for future slightly more salesy emails?
I've never sent one of those and somebody responded and was like, I'm going to sign a contract. That's never happened. But it does, I think, take the wall down a little bit to make us a little bit more approachable. I've found that when folks have not actually said no yet, it's because they either one, don't see the need at the moment or have more questions. It's usually one of those two things. Like they haven't seen the value or they're still confused. So sometimes when you send those emails, they're a little bit more unguarded. You can get some more information to kind of direct you in the path that you need to take with that particular client. And that's always going to be my goal is like I got to get to the root of why there's a hesitation. And that hesitation may be that we're not the right agency, by the way. I'm not, I will be the first to always say that, like, or WordPress is not the right tool or whatever. But I need to figure out how to get to kind of the issue that's keeping them from moving forward.
Awesome. Let me see. Let me just double check the chat. Doesn't look like anyone has asked any others. I have one more question for you that is just from me.
Sure.
What do you think that 2020 looks like as far as in-person events? I know you talked a lot about Zoom fatigue and people
Mhm.
being on camera all the time. Do you think 2022 will be a little bit less of that? Do you think we'll have some more in-person events?
Mhm.
Any of
I,
that?
I've seen it now. Like I've gotten invited to 3 Christmas parties that are all next week, 2 of which are in New York, and that was kind of new and exciting. And 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I probably would have said to you, live events are going to be a thing in 2022. And then Omicron came, and now as
Mm-hmm.
as I don't know anymore, right? So
This roller coaster.
it is a bit of a roller coaster. I will say that I think we'll see a turn in the spring. I don't think that winter is going to be busy yet, but I think in the spring we're going to start to see a turn. And honestly, I think it's going to come down to folks being able to show their vaccination status for a lot of these events. And it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm ready to see people in person. I miss people like more than I can ever tell you. I miss kind of going places and meeting face to face. I miss WordCamps. I miss WordCamp US. I miss all of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I just hope people are safe and smart, and I want everybody just to be healthy.
Yeah, Kathy mentioned here in the chat the first US based WordCamp is the first weekend in February. That's in Birmingham, Alabama. Hypothetically speaking, that in person events are back to some degree next year. Do you think that those are important for people to try to attend and all of that? For just thinking at it from a business
Yeah.
level and stuff, as part of like 2022 goals, should trying to attend some of those be part of people's plans to, generate new business and all of that?
Yes, I do. But I will also say that you need to adapt the way that you've networked in the past. People are not going to be ready for like full in your face conversations and late nights out and all of that anymore. I think that that is also going to have to change and adapt a little bit. And the way that we have human interactions with folks needs to be thought through a little bit because people's level of comfort is going to be very different. And it's going
Hmm.
to be our responsibility to understand that and respect that. So, in the past, if you went to a word camp, it meant nothing. You run up to somebody, you give them a hug. All of those things were normal, right? I don't necessarily believe that all of those things are going to be normal anymore for everyone. For some people, maybe, but not for everyone. So, understanding people's comfort levels, I think, is going to be a new kind of human interaction that we need to think about before kind of just jumping back into these networking events. We have to be very conscious of that.
Yeah, I sometimes see a photo or a video or something of a large crowd pre 2020, and it just gives me like jitters to see so many people together in one place. But I know that we'll eventually get back to a place where that's slightly more commonplace, but I don't
I
know
did
when.
a I did an event, a volunteer event about a week or two ago, and a gentleman I had never met before came up, introduced himself, and shook my hand. And I was like, what,
He
what do I do?
he's
Are
been
we
asleep for
shaking?
2 years and didn't realize what happened.
I was like, are we shaking hands? Like, is this what and I honestly didn't know. I had to give myself a moment and say, what am I comfortable with? Am I comfortable shaking hands? Like,
Yeah,
everybody jokes about the fact that no one will ever blow out candles on a birthday cake again. And I think to myself, how did we ever do that before? We were just cool with
yeah.
people
That's
just
fine. Just
blowing
spit
out
on the cake I'm gonna
candles.
eat.
Totally fine. But now I can't even imagine that being a thing. So how I will feel about handshakes and greeting people and hugs, who knows?
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. Um, no other questions. I do see Kathy also said WordCamp US is in planning for late August, early September potentially, and Jeffrey says the Las Vegas Convention Center is showing quite a few in-person events on their LinkedIn. So we'll see if those hold as time goes on here. That is it. I don't see any other questions at the moment, so I think I'll go ahead and wrap us up here. Thanks everyone for coming to this meetup. We do have another WordPress event on Monday, WordPress trends to watch in 2022. That'll be some similar guidelines. We'll have a panel with Paul Lacey, Ronald Giselle, Cami McNamara, and Ann McCarthy talking to us about what they see 2022 looking like. And that's on Monday, December 13th at 6 p.m. GMT, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can find more information about that on events.godaddy.com, along with any other past or future events. Again, I'm going to try and get this one uploaded to the event page that you registered for here as soon as I possibly can after we get done here, so that you can all go back and take a look at that. There's so many things in there that I took notes and so many that I missed. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it as well. With that, I'll end it here. Thank you, Jodie, again for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. If anybody wants to continue this conversation, I'm on Twitter,
Yeah.
Jodie_Fiorenza. Please feel free to get in touch with me.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, and that's also on the events .godaddy.com page that you registered here. All the information about Jodie, including the Twitter handle and all that stuff is there. So please do reach out to Jodie if you have any other questions. Other than that, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marcus. Bye-bye.